Okay, let's dive right into today's explainer. We are going to untangle the incredibly chaotic web of characters, crimes, and deep-rooted corruption woven all throughout Only the Strong Survive This Desert. We're going to break down exactly how a multi-hundred-million-dollar gold rush transformed a remote, quiet community into an absolute lawless wasteland. We'll be examining the shifting power dynamics, the hidden agendas, and of course, that brutal collision between the people trying to bury the truth and those who are willing to bleed to dig it up. And let me tell you, the sheer scale of the deception we're about to map out is absolutely staggering. Listen to this stark warning from Pinky. All roads lead to Furnace Creek. There is nothing else out here. It really sets the tone, right? It immediately plunges us into this remote, totally isolated world where the normal rules of law simply do not apply. In this desert, isolation is literally weaponized. Think about it. When all roads lead to a single corporate-controlled town like Furnace Creek, it means there are no escape routes. There are no unbiased authorities to run to and zero prying eyes from the outside world. This geographical bottleneck is exactly what allows a massive criminal enterprise to operate in broad daylight, setting the perfect stage for the conflict that's about to erupt. And this setup brilliantly illustrates the core dynamic we're dealing with here. On one side, you've got Detective J. He's the ultimate outsider, a federal presence driven by this singular, unwavering mission to find a missing girl named Jung Mei. He can't be bought, and frankly, he doesn't care at all about local politics. But on the other side, we have Officer Josh. He is the insider, the local cop who has spent years just looking the other way, quietly collecting envelopes of cash and rationalizing all the horrific things happening on his watch. When these two opposing forces finally collide, well, it acts as the spark that ignites the entire powder keg of Furnace Creek. Section 1. Two conflicting mysteries: the missing girl and the gold rush. So the Furnace Creek expansion, it is not just some standard business deal. It is the financial engine that's literally funding every single illicit activity in the area. This is a massive gold mining grab, and to actually secure it, the corporate suits require the approval of the local Broken River indigenous community. It involves a mountain of red tape, and the town's elite will do whatever it takes. We're talking bribery, intimidation, and extreme violence just to get those signatures on paper. This expansion provides the motive for everything else we're about to uncover. When you start connecting all these different threads, you realize Detective J hasn't just stumbled into a routine missing persons case. No, he's stepped right into a massive, multi-layered conspiracy. It's a systemic criminal empire. I mean, we're talking about airplanes flying in trafficked Asian workers completely off the grid. We're looking at ruthless, illegal land grabs that are perfectly masked as corporate progress. And when respected indigenous elders refuse to play ball, they're suddenly found dead in staged suicides. It's awful. And all of this is allowed to happen purely because the local police are effectively on the payroll of the mining company. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering amount of gold at stake here, which explains exactly why the town's elite will murder anyone who gets in their way. This isn't just a minor payday for them. With this much capital on the line, morality is entirely removed from the equation. Human lives, whether it's an old man trying to protect his sacred land or a lone girl just trying to survive, they become completely disposable. This number, this massive fortune, represents the sheer gravity pulling everyone in the town down into the dirt. Section 2. The corrupt town power brokers, rulers of the dust. The thematic juxtaposition here is just absolutely wild. Picture this. At these public signing ceremonies, corporate suits stand at podiums and preach about environmental respect, cultural protection, and building infrastructure for the Broken River community. They promise to get lost kids into full-time jobs. Sounds great, right? But the hidden reality? They are simultaneously hiring violent mercenaries to shoot at the locals, shoot their dogs, and terrorize anyone who even questions the expansion. It's a textbook corporate facade hiding a fundamentally violent land grab. I mean, hearing that, you'd probably think Morin is just a sweet, harmless town matriarch, wouldn't you? She projects this incredibly disarming, grandmotherly aura. She serves tea, talks about baking, and casually drops that she has 12 sponsor kids as this shield of morality. It's a brilliant, brilliant disguise, and her true nature is arguably the most terrifying element in all of Furnace Creek. But here comes the dramatic whiplash. Because that sweet old lady baking pies, she is actually a ruthless crime boss pulling all the strings. Marin isn't just complicit, she is the apex predator of this entire town. While she's politely pouring milk and sugar for the visiting detective, she is simultaneously running an off-the-books human trafficking ring and directing her enforcer, Johnny, to clear out any obstacles to the gold expansion, with lethal force if necessary. It just so brilliantly illustrates how the most dangerous threats often hide behind the most innocent facades. And then, of course, we have Tommy. He really represents the tragic vulnerability of the town, manipulated by the promise of money into selling out his own community's safety. As the Indigenous Land Council boss, he is caught in an impossible squeeze. He justifies his actions by claiming he just needs to sign the papers to feed them people, but in doing so, he has invited a plague of violence and corruption into Broken River. He is a man totally drowning in guilt, desperately trying to cover up his complicity as the bodies literally start piling up around him. Section 3. Blood on the Sand. The Violent Escalation. What we're tracking here is a brutal domino effect. It shows just how incredibly fast a multi-million-dollar cover-up turns into a bloodbath once a single piece of the puzzle, old Jimmy, refuses to play along. So day 1, Jimmy walks out of the signing ceremony protecting his sacred land. By day 2, they've murdered him and hung him from a tree to make it look like a tragic suicide, a horrific tactic they've actually used before. This brutal act is the catalyst for day 3, where the compromised officer Josh finally wakes up to the nightmare he's been enabling. And that inevitably leads us right into day 4, where the words run out and the bullets start flying at the laundry. This right here is the breaking point for our compromised insider. Josh has taken their dirty money for years, sure, but he finally decides the human cost of the trafficking ring and Jimmy's murder is simply way too high to ignore. You can really feel the sheer desperation in his ultimatum. He tries to leverage his insider knowledge of the operation to force Morin to hand over the trafficked girls to him. He actually thinks he can outsmart the very monsters he helped create. But as we see, trying to negotiate with a ruthless crime boss when you're already that deeply compromised is a fatal mistake. Because, well, of course, Morin doesn't negotiate. She immediately calls his bluff and strings him along, pretending to set up a meeting for his cut of the profits. Instead, she sends him out to the middle of nowhere to meet her enforcer. And what follows is one of the most chilling sequences of the entire story. Josh is handed a shovel and forced at gunpoint to dig a hole nice and big for himself in the desert sand. Just business to them, right? Section 4. The dust finally settles. A hollow victory? So, the gunfire stops, but while the immediate criminal ring is broken, this victory feels incredibly hollow. Yes, the feds take over the town and the local trafficking ring is disrupted, with the girls being relocated to the city. But the specific girl Jay was searching for, Jung Mei, she completely vanishes into the desert without a trace, leaving his primary mission unresolved. Meanwhile, Josh, who is forever changed by the violence and guilt, requests a transfer to the ocean. He is desperate to wash the literal and metaphorical dirt of Furnace Creek off of him. The bad guys may have been stopped today, but you get the sense the system itself remains largely intact. You think you really cleaned up that town of yours? You might have stirred up a bit of dirt. It's just a matter of time that the dust settles. Man, that is a haunting, brutal truth spoken directly to Jay. Taking down one local crime boss or stopping one mining expansion doesn't cure the underlying disease, The powers that be will just reorganize, rewrite the contracts, and find new compromised people to do their bidding. Jay stirred up the dirt, absolutely, but the desert is vast, and eventually the dust always settles right back down where it was. So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder long after you finish this explainer. When the lure of hundreds of millions of dollars is constantly hanging over an isolated, vulnerable community, can a single person ever enact permanent change? Or are characters like Jay simply resetting the board for the next inevitable wave of exploitation? Thank you so much for walking through this complex narrative with me today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.
Hello Hollywood movie lovers. Can you watch a story? Or hey YouTube, this is my reel I'm editing. Please subscribe. This person, his name says subscribe. Okay guys, thank you.